let's go ahead, get to our Pac-12 Power Rankings this week. Erik, let's start with you, man. I know we were going back and forth this morning.
We were.
Kind of dissecting what we thought everything was going to look like, but where do you have Arizona here in the Pac-12
All right,
Power
okay.
Rankings?
I am an unbiased journalist at heart. Okay, so U of A back up at number 1. It was an impressive win over the weekend. That's as much as I'll say about that. Colorado bouncing back a little bit after faltering, and I would say they're still sitting strong, but I did have to think about it. I'm going to be honest with you, because Arizona State University, man, that game against USC, they absolutely suffocated them. I just don't know how much more that is about USC than it is ASU. However, still really good in the Pac-12 rankings and a much better weekend than Oregon. Oregon dropping both of their games, so they dropped down to 4 for me. So I got U of A, Colorado, Arizona State, Oregon. Then we're going to go to Utah. They're hanging steady. They're pretty average, but like we talked about before the show, the top and then the middle and the fall off is kind of crazy.
Only half a game.
Yeah. We got Wazoo sitting in 6th, Stanford in 7th, Washington in 8th, UCLA at 9, USC at 10, Cal at 11, and Oregon State now at the very bottom
of the barrel
in 12. Sorry, Clint. I'm sorry,
Look,
man.
before we get to my graphic, out of those teams on your graphic, which one do you think has the most potential to rise this week?
Most potential to rise. Ooh, who's playing who? That's
so you got the
question.
Arizona schools playing the Oregon schools.
Then I think, honestly, I'm looking at Arizona State and Oregon, because if Oregon can take down the Arizona schools, then they're going to jump right back up. I know 4 isn't too low.
Yeah.
But they have been sitting near the top, and this is the lowest they've been in a little bit. So I feel like a really good bounce back week for Oregon. Not to cut you off, but I feel like that'd be pretty important for them.
No, you're absolutely right. JJ in the chat. Crazy to think ASU should have and could have headed to Eugene with a 6-1 record. Absolutely. ASU, this is actually something we were talking about earlier, just in terms of the fact that if you beat UCLA, which a game you should have won,
definitely,
then you are headed to Eugene with the top spot in the pack. So that obviously hurts. But let's go ahead and take a look at what I have for this week's Pac-12 Power Rankings. Similar to you, Erik, I've got the Arizona Wildcats back at 1. An impressive comeback victory over a bad UCLA team. Now, that's, again, UCLA is not a very good basketball team. They beat the Sun Devils. They had a big lead over Arizona, so I'm interested to see how the rest of that season goes. But if you're an Arizona Wildcats fan, I know you're number 1, but at a certain point, you might start to get a little nervous because you had that Stanford loss, you had the Washington State loss, and now you're starting to shake in your boots a little bit because UCLA had you on the ropes. I've got Colorado at 2, an impressive weekend for them, obviously, with the big win over Oregon, handing them their first conference loss of the season. Oregon would then lose to Utah. That's why I have them at 3. Arizona State split this weekend with the LA schools. Massive victory over USC. And I was talking to Erik about this a little bit earlier. How many teams in the conference and in the country can say they have a nucleus of 4 guys? Jose Perez, Frankie Collins, Adam Miller, Jemiah Neal, any one of them can go for 20 a night. Now, if you are able to get the kind of performance from the Sun Devils nucleus like you got this past week, specifically against USC, then I think the Sun Devils are a dangerous team. I've got Utah at 5. They didn't move, although they did have an impressive weekend themselves. They only beat Oregon by a handful of points. I am curious to see how Utah handles these Washington schools coming to town. And when it comes to Stanford on the rise from 8 to 6 in this week's Pac-12 Power Rankings. This is a team that I don't know what to think of Stanford, because they had a pretty unique non-conference slate. They didn't look good at all, but here they are 5-3 in conference play, just a half game back from the top. So we'll see what Stanford can accomplish. I've got Wazoo at 7, Washington at 8. Like I said, they get a dance with Utah and I believe also Colorado this weekend. I've got UCLA at 9. They jump up. Now, part of that jump up, obviously the big win over Arizona State. And then they had a hell of a half against the Wildcats, but you got to put 2 halves together if you want to move up more. Cal, congratulations. You are no longer the bums of the conference, going from 12 to 10. Now, don't make me regret that. Cal, you are 3-5 in conference play. Okay, so just because you move from 12 to 10 doesn't mean you're good. You're just less ass than everybody else. USC, you are 11 because, oh my goodness. I don't know if it's time to put the blame on the coaching staff for this one, because they have athletes, they have talent. They just can't seem to get it done. I don't know what to tell you.
You have them dropping 4 spots, which is
I know.
pretty significant.
You lost both games, and Arizona State beat you bad. Oregon State, though, you claim the final spot in the Pac-12, number 12 in the power rankings. They have lost 5 in a row. They haven't won a game on the road, and they are 1-6 in conference play, and it doesn't get any easier for the Beavs. They've obviously got Arizona and Arizona State this week, so could be a real rough weekend if you are an Oregon State basketball fan, but we know those are few and far between. Guys, head to the comments. Let us know what you think of this week's Pac-12 Power Rankings.